With this video log about the last thing we did, which was the informative speech, there's a few things I'm going to talk about. The first thing I'd like to start off with was how I felt going into the presentation. The biggest part about going into the presentation was my background. Being in debate, I felt like I was pretty good at giving speeches, but it's always been to somebody it's an audience that understands the topic a lot more than somebody who has a fresh topic in front of them. So I'll talk about that later, how the audience was considered, but that was the first thing I felt going into the presentation, was that I really didn't understand what I was actually going to be doing, and that I had to really kind of simplify things and make it easier for somebody to understand that had never heard of my topic before. The next thing I'd like to talk about is the technology, which was the first part I had to deal with. In the first video I gave, I had a really poor picture quality and it was an issue, but now I have a better camera that works, and with the computer and all, I had a pretty good microphone setup so that it worked a lot better, and it was clear and concise in my PowerPoint, and I feel a lot better about it. That was something I fixed, and that's something that is really key to somebody who's in a video log presentation and in any online speech class, is to make sure you have the technology. I didn't really consider it once I got into the class, and I paid for it with the first thing I uploaded, but now I've kind of figured it out and got something that actually works. Now going on to the purpose of the speech that we gave, it's really farther than just the information that you're presenting. Now, whatever topic you picked, whether it's diesel fuel or really anything else, that was the topic I picked, that really doesn't matter. What you're really focusing on is advancing your skills when it comes to structure and organization, and considering your audience, really any one of those topics. It's not about the topic itself, that's just the medium for understanding what you're doing and what you're supposed to be doing, which is learning about speech and becoming a better speaker. So when it came to structure and organization, that's something generally I have a lot of problems with. That can be anything from how to organize your speech to actually speaking it, and when it's written on paper. I have trouble writing it down, and when it comes to thoughts, I become pretty free-flowing, and I just start writing stuff down that I think makes sense, and it does to me, but once I say it out loud, I understand that it really doesn't. That I need to make sure that it's clear and considerate, especially of the audience, when it came to the informative presentation, because not everybody knows about your topic, so you need to make sure that it's easy to understand, and that it comes in a unified manner that's organized so that they can take one thing at a time and link that back to your thesis and eventually make a conclusion on the information that you're giving to them. When it comes to the audience, like I talked about before, that was a big thing in considering this. Going into the presentation, I thought, well, I need to avoid the jargon about the topic that I'm going to pick and make sure that everybody that can understand it, no matter what the age is or what kind of background they have on the information that I'm going to present. So that affected how the topic was presented, and I tried to break it down into the 3 big points that everybody would know, and then link it to my topic and kind of combine them into a conclusion that anybody can understand. The next thing and the last thing I'm going to talk about is how it worked out. So going in, like I talked about, with the debate background I had, I thought it was going to be easy, but it turned out a lot harder, because not only on paper, but when you're speaking, you need to make sure everything's clear, that you repeat yourself when it comes to the topic and your thesis and the overall point you have, just to make sure they get it in their head that this is what you're talking about and how it links back to the conclusion. So I think I've definitely improved on that. I think I can make a better speech now, not only on paper, but when I present it, not necessarily to people, but when I do it on the narrated PowerPoint, I understand my points more, and I think it's a lot clearer for somebody to understand, and I'm not jumping all over the place like I used to with anything that I wrote. I used to write very confusing, and it didn't really make a whole lot of sense, but it made sense to me when I thought about it in my head, and I just wrote down what I thought. But now, not only did I write down what I thought, but I got background evidence on it. I made it easy to understand for everybody that hears it, and I just made it more universal for whoever the listener is.